Wonderful. All right, we're going to get going. Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, The Promise of Human-Centric AI for Municipal Waste Operations. I'm Katie Kinnear, Director of Brand Strategy at Routeware, and I'll be guiding today's discussion. And this is a very important discussion to be having now. Artificial intelligence is absolutely no longer a distant promise. It's really beginning to take root in how cities manage waste and recycling, and we're really delighted to be diving a bit deeper into this topic today with you all. From real-time customer support and contamination detection to predictive analytics and smarter routing, we see that AI is helping cities become more efficient, more cost-effective, and more sustainable. But the big question we hear a lot is this: how do we get from promise to practice? So today we'll be exploring that topic in detail and also what makes human-centric AI, what this really means for public works, how it's already reshaping the roles of drivers and supervisors and staff, as well as residents, and also any practical advice for cities looking to begin or expand their AI work. We're really delighted to have an excellent mix of experts joining us today. So please join me in welcoming Phil Lamb, Managing Director of WasteVision AI, Moses Tejuso, Public Works Director for the City of Atlanta, and Vignesh Lal, VP of Data Science at Routeware. This is an excellent group you all have today, and hopefully you can tee up some good questions for them as well. We hope to cover a range of themes in our roughly 35-minute panel discussion. How frontline roles are beginning, to be impacted by AI, any practical steps for getting started, what success looks like, and possibly with measurable outcomes to ensure you're getting ROI from any AI investments, and then also how you build trust and buy-in across your teams and communities. We'll wrap up with a little time for Q&A, so please feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A queue at any time, and we'll get through those at the end of the kind of 35-minute discussion. And then just please note there are two buttons at the bottom of the webinar space. One is chat and one is Q&A. So it's a little easier for us if you put questions in the Q&A space, and then we can cover those at the end. And let's dive in. So I'm going to hand over to our panelists and let them introduce themselves and their work in a little bit more detail, especially as it relates to AI and where it may already be helping them in their work, or they foresee it helping in the near future. So let's start with you, Moses, in the city of Atlanta.
Great. Hello, everyone. As Katie mentioned, my name is Moses Tejuso. I am the Public Works Director for the city of Atlanta. It's great to be here with you all virtually. My areas of purview are the critical services that keep the city moving, from waste collection and recycling to our landfill operations. Over the past several years, we've been on a journey to explore how artificial intelligence can enhance these essential services. And I emphasize journey because it's been very much rooted in pilots, testing, learning, and adapting along the way. We've experimented with AI-powered routing technology to help our crews plan more efficient collection paths. We're also exploring smart waste receptacles that alert us when they're full, so we service receptacles based on need, not just schedule. And we're piloting camera detection systems that help identify illegal dumping and litter patterns in real time, so we can respond faster and smarter. We're exploring additional improvements to impact behavior change regarding recycling contamination and safety enhancements. All of this in the effort to leverage AI to support our staff. While the majority of what I discussed today is centered around public works, please note that other city departments are engaged in similar endeavors as we move Atlanta forward. What I've found is that this work is all about balance, leveraging new tools while staying grounded in the needs of residents and the expertise of our frontline workers. I'm excited to share what we've learned and to hear how others are advancing the human-centered, tech-enabled solutions in their own communities. So thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Phil, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Katie. Glad to be here. My name is Phil Lamb. I'm Managing Director with WasteVision AI. And we partner with Routeware to provide what is called operational AI. So a lot of the artificial intelligence technology up to this point, within our industry has been around safety. So there's a lot of monitoring on the trucks and cameras on the truck, and AI is used to help drivers drive more safely, and that's been highly effective in the industry. We're getting to the point in the artificial intelligence journey, and it definitely is a journey where some of the operational challenges within the industry can be tackled with AI. And so when we talk about operational AI, we talk about things like contamination detection, overflow detection. All of these things can be done both in the residential and commercial contexts. And we also work with positive service verification as well. So kind of modernizing service verification so that customers, when they call in and wonder whether they've been serviced or not, the municipality can provide video or photographic evidence of that. So operational AI is, fairly new. We've been at it a few years. We're really excited to be partnering with Routeware and all of the on-truck technologies that they have, and excited to work with people like Moses and talk to people like Moses to understand those challenges so that we can apply these technologies to the day-to-day. So thanks again for having me here today.
Thank you, Phil. Vignesh?
Right. Hello, everyone. My name is Vignesh Lal. So I'm Vice President of Data Science here at Routeware. I lead the data and the data science team here at Routeware. My work primarily focuses on all of our analytics and reporting platforms. And then I also work on building AI and vision-based applications that helps modernize municipal waste operations. I'm very passionate about developing like human-centric AI scalable solutions that can empower our users, drive smarter, more efficient decision-making across the industry. Similar to what Phil already mentioned, I mean, we've also kind of done some work around AI, around contamination, pothole detection, illegal dumping. We have kind of piloted with some cities across the country. And we also use AI on some of our route optimization initiatives, like using the data that we collect using our telematics platform and kind of combining that with the route data that we have, bringing in any kind of savings and transformations from an optimization standpoint. And then we also kind of worked with AI on some of the back office solutions around like just being able to get the service request, like how can we automate the part of taking the service requests and being able to generate some responses which can help kind of users on a day-to-day basis. So just helping some of the manual workloads. So looking forward to be here and that's from my side.
Amazing. Well, thank you all. So I always feel like with any AI discussion, it's important to hit the nail on the head when it comes to some of the fear and misconceptions around the technology. And certainly, and I know in our prep for this webinar, we discussed a little bit, that there's a lot of fear of kind of this big brother element associated with AI, but also that it's potentially replacing jobs. And I know our position is certainly that actually it's very additive and it can be a complement to existing workflows and empower folks to do their jobs more easily and more safely in many cases. So in that kind of context, I wanted to explore, what does human-centric AI mean in the context of municipal waste and recycling operations, and why is it important to not lose sight of the human focus when we talk about these technologies? And Moses, again, I'd like to start with you here, since you really are on the front lines with your department.
Absolutely. We're very thoughtful about how we introduce emerging technologies and things that are somewhat unknown to some of our staff. What it means to us is designing and implementing, AI technologies that empower and support our workforce and the residents ultimately, rather than replacing them. So in Atlanta, for example, AI tools help drivers to optimize routes while still valuing their local knowledge of neighborhoods and traffic patterns. This approach for us has ensured that technology acts as a partner that enhances the service quality and operational efficiency while maintaining that human oversight. And what we found is that fosters trust amongst our staff.
Love that. And Phil, I feel like, again, on your side, you're kind of in the AI development piece, but when you think of the human-centric side, what do you look to?
I mean, I think when you look back at this industry in terms of the evolution of technology, we think of drivers a lot. So we work a lot with our technologies apply to drivers, and the cab of trucks have become very busy places. There's a lot of monitors and alarms and different things, and so the operational AI that we deploy is completely passive. So it's the driver doesn't have to do anything. The driver doesn't have to hit a button to take pictures of contamination, does not have to monitor and record overflows. And every moment that the driver is not doing one of those other things that are operationally important, the driver can focus on safety. Anytime that a driver can stay in the cab and not get out of the cab to take a picture or do something else that supports operations, that helps with safety. So, less is more when it comes to drivers in cabs, and we want to make it we want to help the technology do the work and the drivers do their job, which is to drive the truck. And that applies to other areas I'm sure we'll get into as it goes through to the conversation, but AI definitely can help make a safer operation.
Excellent. And Vignesh, I know you all are very focused on the user experience, but how do you think of human-centric AI?
Yeah, so I think going back to like what Moses and Phil already mentioned, right? So for me, like human-centric AI in municipal waste and recycling operations means building technology that can support and amplify the people doing the work, whether it's the drivers, the dispatchers, route planners, or the city staff, right? So we are focused on building AI tools that are intuitive, transparent, and grounded in real operational context. For example, if you look at the vision-based models that we have developed, I mean, they detect issues like contamination or missed pickups, but those insights are always surfaced in a way that humans can actually verify and act on it. We make sure that, like, so even on the route optimization piece and the reporting tools that we built, they adapt in a way so the city, like for different cities, so that every different city can actually use the tools and the technology to cater for their use cases. It's not the other way around. And in general, I mean, this approach is important because adoption only happens when the tools feel helpful and trustworthy. Human-centric AI helps us build solutions that are scalable and future-proof. And I think this is important without overwhelming the people who rely on it on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, makes sense. And sticking with this theme of focusing on the humans here, how do you all already see the technology impacting the whole group of staff, everyone from the driver to the back office? I think often sometimes for those on the outside of these technologies, you think, oh, maybe it's just the customer service team that's benefiting, or, oh, maybe it's just some automations that are helping the resident at the very end of, the workflow. But how do you all see this touching every piece of your operation, across all staff? Yeah, and in any kind of anecdotes, even of drivers talking about it, I think would be really insightful for this group. I'll switch. Well, Moses, I'm going to start with you again one more time, and then we'll switch the order. But I think you're on the front line here, so go ahead.
Thank you. And I think that Vignesh and Phil brought up some good points around allowing the drivers and the staff to do what they do best, which is operate equipment, keep their head on a swivel, ensuring they're being safe. And there's a lot of incidents of road rage, and there's so much to account for already in an already dangerous job. It was named, top 4 or number 4 most dangerous job this year. So those are considerations as to why we want to equip them with the tools to do their job more efficiently. But in Atlanta, AI is positively impacting frontline roles in several ways. So I mentioned earlier how drivers are using AI-powered apps that provide real-time traffic updates and the route optimization to reduce their travel times, especially in congested areas like downtown or Buckhead. Supervisors and our fleet services partners are able to monitor the vehicle health through the AI-driven predictive maintenance systems, and that helps avoid unexpected breakdowns. So we're more predictive in that fashion, utilizing those insights. Our call center partners, ATL 311, they benefit from AI chatbots that quickly handle common resident inquiries, and that allows them to pivot human staff to focus on more complex issues. So those are some examples that we see here in our operation.
Excellent.
Probably add to that, Katie.
Yeah.
One of and Moses and I have had a chance to talk about this previously, but in terms of contamination detection, that's a big thing that many recycling programs in cities have. And so, doing that on an automated and passive basis with AI has a number of benefits. If you think of the alternative, a lot of cities will go out and have lid flipping campaigns where they have, literally a team of people that go out, feet on the street, 5 in the morning, going through neighborhoods and, flipping up containers to see if there's contamination there. That's not a good, that's not, people don't want to be there doing it. Residents get a little confused as to what people are doing, flipping lids at 5 or 6 in the morning. And it doesn't even scratch the surface in terms of getting that full data set of contamination events and tying those back to generators. So I think it's an example of where AI has taken a very repetitive and unrewarding task and provided the data, and all those resources can be used to act upon that data. So that's one of the examples that we've found.
Right. Vignesh, anything to add on to that?
Yeah, and Phil mentioned about the contamination. I think that's definitely been one of the use cases. Some of the other use cases that we have worked on is the pothole detection. I mean, we have piloted with some cities where we have identified and detected potholes, really help them identify all the distressed streets along the city. Otherwise, it's a very manual operation where someone has to kind of go to every single street in the city to kind of identify where the potholes are. But with the garbage trucks, I mean, they are on every single street almost at least once a week. So I think we always like to call them like data centers sometimes, because you can actually have all the cameras on them and the sensors. So and try to identify all the information that we can. We've also looked to explore, like, in addition to identifying potholes, like graffitis and even like illegal dumping. I think that's what we kind of talked to couple cities who had real illegal dumping issues, and we actually looked at using cameras to identify where there's a mattress or furnitures lying on the street side. I think these are some AI related use cases. I've talked about optimization. I think we definitely use optimization, the data that we collect from a telematic standpoint. So we use all the data. There's a lot of data crunching that happens in the background, so we can use those insights to better drive the optimization projects that we do. There's definitely plenty of that we do. I did talk about the back office use cases. I mean, something, and this is not just even with the city, even internally, like when we look at like in the past even with Rubicon, I mean, when we use, like, we had the brokerage team. So basically, like, how can we, like, we use some of the processes to help triage the service tickets or respond to the emails that the users would send, and how can we automate some of those tasks that can help reduce the manual time that a rep had to spend triaging those tickets. So these are some of the use cases that we worked on.
Excellent. So yeah, this is great because we're touching on a lot of different opportunities here. The contamination piece, the optimization piece, back office, front office. You all kind of touched on this, and I'm wondering if we could dive a little deeper into it. AI is being used for a lot of the collection part, the automation, hands off, touchless, all that. But also it sounds like predictive opportunities where you actually can now take that data, and rather having someone crunch that manually in a very tedious way, it could be a little bit more proactive. Is that something any of you all could expand on a little bit? Is that predictive piece?
Sure, I'll jump in. I think Vignesh and Phil both touched on some things related to the fleets of a public works department. We are leveraging that with our other partners, because you're right, we're traveling down each street a minimum of once a week. With that comes a lot of great data, whether it be the roads for our Department of Transportation partners, as far as detecting maintenance requirements or needs on certain roads. We started off with small pilots and AI applications for select divisions within our department. To your point about the predictive side of things, we did deploy sensor-equipped receptacles for enhanced waste management in public spaces. And I mentioned earlier how our fleet partners are actively engaged in leveraging telematics insights to analyze data for predictive maintenance on our fleet. We intend to explore existing technologies and some emerging ones to perform detection of contamination. As Phil mentioned, we were one of the early recipients of a grant for feet on the street for recycling contamination, and everything that he noted is accurate. We would prefer to be able to utilize technology as opposed to people on the ground in those safety sensitive positions, and be able to increase or enhance behavior change through contamination in recycling particularly, as well as those instances of oxygen tanks and batteries and et cetera that end up in the waste stream that cause really, really big safety issues. We also would like to be able to detect our department assets while our crews are canvassing. And I think our partners in code enforcement would benefit from blight detection or identification, illegal dumping, or properties that have overgrown, et cetera, junk vehicles. I mean, I think the sky is the limit. But as we mobilize resources to address those areas and to provide actionable deliverables that we can actually improve behavior across our residents and the city as a whole. Involving the frontline staff early on in the training and the feedback sessions has been key to us building trust and refining the tools. And again, starting with the pilot programs and clear performance metrics have allowed gradual scaling based on those proven results.
I would just add on a little bit to what Moses said, and really from a analytical perspective, one of the things that AI does is it collects a lot of data. Properly deployed AI technologies collect a lot of data, and it's structured data. But unless municipalities take that data and analyze it and turn that into action, the data is not really worth anything. But there's an opportunity that's unprecedented right now to collect a lot of data, and then the challenges that Moses faces in Atlanta are very, comparable to other challenges faced with other municipalities. And it's things like contamination and blight, overflowing containers, service levels, route optimization. All of those things, municipalities can make better decisions if they take this data that now can be collected again very, very inexpensively on a relative basis and apply some very targeted analysis that will inform behaviors, whether that's new routes, whether that's charging residents when they, or warning at least, and educating when they contaminate or if they have overflowing containers. It's all about taking the data, doing the analysis, and then targeting your actions. And I think municipalities like Moses are a great example of folks that are on the forefront of doing that.
Right. Well, kind of, we've touched on this a little bit now with the training and the trust piece, but I was wondering if you all could elaborate a little bit on how you find that balance between innovating with AI. It's great sometimes to get the headline, the technology's been invested in or we're piloting it, but then do you sometimes get pushback from residents who now feel, well, now you're watching me, or, drivers are still nervous about it? In addition to kind of the training, what other techniques are you using to be sure that it's, that implementation goes smoothly, and how do you find that balance? I'll start with you, Moses. Maybe if you could deep dive a little bit more into really how, when you're introducing this to the drivers or you're introducing some of this new tech to the residents, is it, what techniques have you found helpful?
That's fair. So we take a town hall approach, and I personally, rack up on some pizzas and et cetera, and get some stakeholder engagement going. And again, I think I alluded to this earlier, is just the more people are a part of things on the front end, the more apt they are to get the buy-in and be a part of said change. So internally, we're really big on getting feedback and getting that buy-in. And it just comes down to getting people in front of you. Ultimately, I think that with our staff, what I've seen with our staff is the more they're connected to it, the better off we'll be with implementing things. So primary example is our team is connected to their performance metrics via our routing and our optimization piece. So it results in a lot of good banter where individuals are really connected to their route performance as it pertains to how they're performing from day to day, whether it be tonnage and households per hour, their route time. I would like to say that we are probably leading the way with exceptions as it comes to individuals flagging those concerns they're seeing while they're out on the route. And that in itself, just having that transparency around what that data collection, to Phil's point, means to them. We've seen a lot of success there. So individuals, from my experience, want to be connected to, if they do X, Y, and Z, what does that mean for them in the future? And how does that impact them, their performance, and how they do their job? And I think the residents also feel a sense of connection to that, understanding that this is to enhance the customer service experience, particularly around the service delivery of our curbside collections division. And then it also goes a little deeper into us being able to use the resources that they provide us more efficiently. So that's been my experience with our public works department.
And I think for us, I mean, for me, it all comes down to transparency and communication, right? And I think Moses touched upon that as well. I think from the start, when we start a project, make sure there's a clear goal for any AI related or any initiative. There's a clear goal, whether it's reducing missed pickups, improving safety, streamlining the service request. It can be anything. We have to communicate and clearly so to all the people who are being impacted by this. I think clear communication is the key. And typically, even when we do any kind of optimization projects, I mean, we typically would go and create touch points throughout the process. So we involve the staffs in the pilot, collect feedback early. It's very important. Ensure there's visibility in terms of how the AI is working, what we are trying to do, how we are trying to interpret your data, the end goal. For example, when we are rolling out an optimization project, the supervisors can see how and why the routes are being changed, and the drivers can also provide feedback. I think it's very important because at the end of the day, the drivers are the ones who are going to be driving the routes. It's important we kind of put the routes in front of them before, and if they want to if they don't want to turn into an alleyway, or if they don't want to make a U-turn somewhere or want to make a right somewhere, I mean, it's important to get that feedback while we're in the process of designing the route. So I think it all comes down to clarity and communication with every single person who is involved in the process.
Great.
Yeah, so from the WasteVision vantage point, we've never had a lid flip, someone who had to be out at 5 a.m. flipping lids say, "Oh, I wish we could do that," because our technology in conjunction with Routeware eliminates that need, and so there's value to that. People would rather be working on more impactful things. Same thing with drivers. Drivers don't want to get out of trucks and take a bunch of pictures. They just want to do a good job driving their route safely. And so that's been easy. There's more variability with residents. It can be can be a challenge. I think as a resident myself, I live in a community where they use Recollect, which is one of Routware's products for communication, and I get a text every night before to instructing what to put out and providing information about the collection. So I think when there's value being provided, residents, I can speak for myself, appreciate that when there's communication, that Vignesh and Moses have just been talking about. The other thing too is when there are exceptions, and whether it's contamination or some other type of exception, we always find that a picture says 1,000 words. So these technologies now have photographic capabilities and video capabilities, and it takes a lot of that emotion out of residents who might be upset about something calling into the customer service area. A lot of times the photographic evidence, one way or the other, can help to diffuse those situations. So I just echo what Vignesh and Moses said. It's about transparency and communication and delivering value.
Let's stick with that theme on delivering value. Obviously, a lot of these tools are an investment, and there is a reporting kind of demonstrating return on investment component that is obviously important to successful implementation and also scaling, right? If you're going from pilot to a larger implementation, what are some of the most successful kind of quantifiable results that you all have seen where there's this aha moment of, yeah, this is working and we need to keep investing in this? Are there specific kind of quantifiable either metrics or pilot results that you've seen when it comes to implementing AI tech that have been quite compelling or more compelling than others? Start with you, Moses, if that's all right.
Okay, great. I think that from the onset, I had some pretty basic needs as an operational leader. And I think Phil mentioned the service delivery validation piece. Just knowing that we provided the service that we were contracted to do, as well as understanding where our fleet is, where our vehicles are, being able to do dynamic routing, so many things that were just on the basic side of things. But to your point, the ROI is critical. So going from the paper maps to digital maps, those were just basic things within the routing structure. But as we dig deeper into what some different metrics that were realized, AI-based route optimization, it did reduce collection times with us by 12%, saving fuel and cutting emissions. The machine vision for our contamination detection, working with our MRF, decreased contamination to our current rate of about 25%, improving recycling quality, right? So right now, recycling is challenging in some municipalities. We've been able to sustain some pretty good success in that, and I think AI played a major part in that. Predictive maintenance, as I mentioned before, reduced truck downtime by approximately 18%. And that results in fewer service disruptions and lower repair costs, which is a primary part of our budget, is our repair and maintenance. But we've engaged in successful pilots that resulted in full-scale implementation as well. And we're focused on continuous improvement and intend to build upon the early success of AI implementation.
Great. Vignesh or Phil, what are some of the metrics that you look to when you want to really demonstrate the value of what you're doing?
Phil,
Well, I'll chime in real quick and just say, overflows are a big deal, especially on the commercial side. I know many municipalities don't do commercial, but on the commercial side of things, when there's an overflowing container, it's industry standard that there's a charge. And either through a hauler right sizing or just charging for that extra work they're doing, there's a huge ROI relative to the cost of AI. We've started to see that actually, and with some of our clients out in California, we've actually seen residential overflows being tracked and either warning notices or charges to residents for on that side of things. And then, Moses mentioned the lower the contamination rate, the more viable the recycling program. And if you're, municipalities that have 40% plus contamination rates, oftentimes it's not viable with that level of contamination. And so driving that contamination rate down is really can make a recycling program viable, and help save it for some municipalities.
Great point.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, I think Phil mentioned about all the vision AI related use cases that we have. I think there are a couple of places I've already mentioned about route optimization a couple of times, but that's actually somewhere where we have actually seen some impact. We did an optimization project with quite a few cities right now where we are able to kind of use the data and create routes. So apart from optimization, it's also about like how we actually like use the data that we are getting from Phil and their team, right? Like all the contaminants or potholes, or if there are any overflowing bins or any issues that we see, like how can we tie that back to a route? So let's say if we talk about like illegal dumping as a scenario. So if we are able to find all these different pockets where there are like we are finding illegal dumping sites, we basically like use that to kind of create those points on a map, and then we are able to kind of collect that information and then use our optimization tool to generate routes. So then there's an automated way of how you can now run those routes and kind of go to the specific areas rather than having someone drive through every single street segment trying to find some of those use cases. So we're also looking at not like using all these different technologies and using our platform and product to kind of bring everything together. So there are different ways of how we're looking at it.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, before we pivot to questions, and we have gotten some good questions coming in, I did want to just close our kind of panel discussion with your advice for cities that are looking to start on this AI journey, and where can they focus first? If they do need to prioritize and pick one area or one problem to start with, what would be your advice to those cities? And anyone feel free to jump in with that one first.
I, I can go first. I think probably like my advice would be like start small, right? Start small, stay focused, just build momentum. I mean, you don't have to like overhaul your entire operation overnight. Just identify what's the impacted area, the high impact area. It could be missed pickups, it could be route inefficiencies, or it could be contamination. I mean, we have found a lot of success by running pilots. So that ways you start small, you're trying to validate your use case for a small certain area and then once you start seeing the value add and once you're able to kind of measure the success, then you, start big and then you can start to impact some of the other areas as well. So that would be my recommendation.
And I could build on that and just say, if you have a trusted partner like Routeware, and Routeware is providing different types of technologies to you already, a lot of times AI can leverage and really amplify the benefit of those existing technologies. And so, going to a trusted partner who provides, a wide range of solutions like Routeware, I think that can really help. Take those initial steps that Vignesh is talking about. And then another nice thing too is that generally speaking, these, the on-truck camera-driven technologies anyway, you get benefits from safety and then you build upon them. And when you pilot, as Vignesh was suggesting, you don't have to do it for every truck in your fleet. You can do it for one truck, two trucks, and really get tangible results that you can touch and feel without doing a massive deployment and making significant budget expenditures.
Yeah, basically what they said. No, I'm kidding. So start with clear, incremental strategy focus on pilot projects that address real pain points. I think that's what Vignesh was speaking to, and Phil as well, just the real pain points. Partner with local universities, startups, or neighboring cities to share expertise and reduce costs. We do a lot of information sharing and benchmarking with other cities. Prioritize training and transparent communication with the frontline staff to encourage adoption. But most importantly, I think the focus of this was to keep AI human-centric, deploy technology that supports your workforce and ultimately improves community outcomes without overwhelming the teams or our budgets.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good way to round it out, that human-centric point and starting with the pain points. Well, with that, I would love to shift to some of these questions that we've got coming in, and I'll kind of go through these as they come in. The first, I think, is actually pretty straightforward. So someone joining from Canada was wondering where the number 4 in risk number comes from. And Moses, I believe that's a SWANA calculation for the risk of a waste and recycling driver, right?
Yes, that is.
Yeah, so that's the Solid Waste Association of North America to answer that question, where that number is calculated from. All right, the next question, we've got an attendee saying, we are a small city in North Carolina considering deploying AI cameras on garbage trucks to help identify and address recycling issues on a household level. The goal is to support residents in improving their recycling habits and eventually to increase the city's overall recycling rate. Is there some template or reference material that could guide us in developing standard procedures for this initiative? And I would add that I can also follow up with this individual after this webinar and share some links to these type of resources. But if any of you have any guidance on what kind of templates or references are most successful in your experience when communicating with residents, that might be helpful.
Well, I know Routeware has experience in this because I remember I attended a Waste Expo seminar on it in years past, and so I know Routeware and the Recollect product. And from a communication standpoint, I guess I would just say, again, take that data because the AI technologies will give you a lot of data to work with. And so, what do you do with that data? The key is that the contamination events are tied to specific residents. So you can, really rifle shoot your communication. You don't have to shotgun messages out to everybody. You can send communications directly to those residents that are generating the contamination. In our experience, typically there is the 80-20 rule. 20% of the residents are generating 80% of the issues. And so if you can, target those types of individuals, you can also, with WasteVision and in partnership with Routeware, you can also use actual images. So if you get a postcard in the mail or an email or a text that has an image of the actual contamination that you put in your trash yesterday or last week or whatever, that can be a powerful message too. So I know that Katie can help out because Routeware has a bunch of experience in this area.
Yeah, I would also add the recycling partnership is a great resource as well for some pretty standard information that you can disseminate to your residents. And our Keep Atlanta Beautiful Commission would also be a good resource if you want to see some best practices and how we've used our data in the past. And I think somebody in the chat also offered some resources here locally in North Carolina.
Wonderful. This is kind of a similar question, but kind of more on the driver side. So how are you making consumers aware of AI tools available to them? For example, AI tools available to drivers. Please share some details on adoption strategies. I think we covered some good resident techniques there, but what does training look like maybe more for the drivers, and how are they aware that these tools are available to them?
It's really vendor heavy. So in the front end, I think we talked about getting the buy-in first and foremost, what this means for them and how this impacts their job and their ability to perform better. But also it's the vendor side. So I typically don't enter into any agreements with companies that don't have a great communication and relationship post sale. The real the real work happens post sale. So individuals that are available to you, available to your team, they're establishing quarterly touch points with your team where they can come down physically and have those training sessions, hands-on training sessions. They've got, I think Routeware does a pretty good job of having the online tools available for refreshers as well. Those are the approaches that we've taken, is ultimately the front end buy-in piece, and then ultimately implementation, but it doesn't stop with implementation. It's an ongoing process of engagement with the vendor to ensure that everybody's aware of how to use the technology.
And I think just to add to that, I think there's like a lot of things that we can do from an AI perspective. There's all these great tools and technology. The way we also try to approach it just from a data and from a optimization standpoint is we try to tackle the problem. Like, what are we trying to solve here? What is the problem that you're facing? And then we kind of go back and then look at like, what are the different tools and technologies we can use to kind of help solve that problem as well. So it's about, first, let's approach the problem, and then let's see like how can we utilize the tools that we have to assist in the best possible way.
Good. Similar, we're kind of in this communication thread, which is great. I love this. This is the feedback loop that is enabled by this technology. So we have a question here. How does Routeware link violation messages to the offenders during curbside collection? And are there cameras or sensors that link specific violations to addresses? So Vignesh, well, actually, all of you have experience in this, but maybe Vignesh, you could start with that, how that works.
Yeah, I think this is more of to Phil's point, is more of a Recollect question. So it'll be good, Katie, if we can kind of get in touch with one of the Recollect product managers and say like how exactly. I know we collect some of this data, to Phil's point, like when there's a contamination event, we collect those images. And since we know the truck and we know the route which is being driven while we collect those images, we have the ability to like tie it to a route and then eventually like to a street and even a resident if we have all the level of information we need. And then we kind of tie it back to our product, which is Recollect. And there are ways of how we can kind of message it, send the messages out to the residents, which I think we can definitely follow back with our product team and kind of get back on that question.
Yeah, I get asked the question, well, what's the best way to communicate these contamination issues to our residents? And my answer to the question, which is, well, how do you best communicate with your residents now, right? Because different cities, towns do it a little bit differently, but through Recollect, I mean, there's text, there's email, there's postcard, methodologies. And then there's also from a data analysis perspective, you can either monitor on a daily level, or you can look back within WasteVision, you can look back over a month or over a quarter to see, the frequency of contamination events for a given resident. And again, focus on those residents that are contaminating the most. So that's been the best practice in our experience, and there's a lot of ways to get that information back to the resident.
Excellent.
It's a good point. I think that's a struggle for many, groups. A lot of technologies out there, different departments are using this and that. Many of them are not integrated or speaking to each other. For instance, for us, we're looking at ways to develop heat maps to understand where to best target our education efforts based off of everything that we capture via the set exceptions. Some of that is direct customer engagement at the curb. Mailers are very expensive, but that is data that you capture, address data as well. And then ultimately integrating that with your customer service platform so that when our customer engagement teams are interacting with residents, they have access to the exception data as well to coach the resident on that behavior change.
Thank you. And you got a thank you from the questioner there as well. That's super helpful. I think we've got time for one more question here, and this is from Robin. She posted in the chat as well as the QA space, but maybe Phil and Vignesh, you could speak to this. The timing on the integration of the AI detection cameras, the all-in-one cameras that detect specific contaminants in the hopper, and when that integration with Routeware is planned for.
Yeah, I know we are actively talking about it. I may not have any specific timelines, well, unless you have some more information from our product team that I'm not aware of, but I think it's definitely works.
Yeah, I mean, we've run successful, pilots, live, but there's different degrees of integration, and there's also different camera systems. So the best thing to do would be to contact, your Routeware representative, and they'll get you to the right people so that we can address the specific situation that you might be in. But we've had, within the partnership, we've had successful piloting within municipalities, and doing all the things we've talked about today.
Thank you. Well, with that, if anyone has any additional questions that we haven't covered today, I'm going to put my email just in the chat here, and feel free to contact me, and I can work with the team here to be sure that those questions reach them, and we can cover off any outstanding items. But I really want to thank our panelists here, Moses, Phil, Vignesh. I want to thank you all for joining. This is an incredibly important topic, and we're excited to be more involved in it with these wonderful city partners and these technology offerings. So yeah, Moses, Phil, and Vignesh, if there's any last words of advice you have, otherwise we'll conclude the webinar.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.